Welcome to a very special Galentine's episode of The Uplifters. Today, I am thrilled to chat with the Dinas, Dina Aronson and Dina Alvarez. Dina Aronson is a writer, an editor, and a pro-age advocate. Hell yes, who is on a mission to reframe how we talk about getting older. She spent years as an attorney, and then made a great big courageous pivot at 51 when she realized that the media landscape that was out there did not reflect the rich, complex reality of her own midlife experience. She launched Patina, first as a blog, now as a really fabulous Substack newsletter. Go read it, where she explores aging through an honest and curious midlife lens. She is here with Dina Alvarez, who is also a writer and editor. She spent her career as a freelance writer. Then she co-founded Somos Padres. She turned all of her attention to the stories of midlife women, microblogging about themes that were resonating deeply with her own experience and other women navigating this midlife period. Together, these women have created Midlife Private Parts, an anthology that's giving voice to diverse women's experiences of stepping into midlife and reimagining what comes next. I love your book, Dina and Dina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We all have
Thank
our
you.
routines.
And duplicate. Yeah.
We all have our routines, and I am not a great paper reader. And so I mostly listen to books on Audible, and I get to listen to a lot of books. The only things I read in paper really are the New York Magazine, because every night I read one story and I read every issue cover to cover before the next one comes. And I have set it aside for the last 2 weeks and only read these wonderful stories. My book is already all dog-eared because it's like Uplifters as a book. And it just, if a big part of our mission is to provide evidence that we can do big, brave things in every chapter of our lives, this book is just filled with stories that provide sort of incontrovertible proof of that. And for me, reading it, I realized there were just so many conversations and perspectives that are underrepresented in the media landscape, told with so much authenticity and love and courage. And I think so much of that must surely go to you as editors. So before we talk about how and why and all of that, I just want to say thank you for creating this digest for all of us to find pieces and parts of our own stories and see them through new lenses, and the work to bring them forth with so much honesty and compassion for where we are.
Thank you so much for having us. It feels so good to hear your reaction and response because it was so the goal of putting these stories out into the world. And it's, when culture stops telling our stories and popular culture and media, it can be really hard to know what's possible for ourselves. And it's in these stories, I think you can see through all of it what's possible. And what's possible is amazing stuff. So,
And different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that so many midlife women said yes to us, that they were so vulnerable in their storytelling and so honest and so wanting to share their story to save other women in some way, younger women from, we all have to make our mistakes, right? But in sharing their own and being so vulnerable, it also teaches them it's okay. Nothing is perfect. Life is, as one of our contributors says, hard and good. So we just love that we were entrusted with these stories and that it was done with a lot of love.
I think that word entrusted is so huge. And I will tell you, just having gotten to observe you in the digital world for a month now and having had one all too brief conversation with you, I'm not surprised people trusted you.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you.
You really seem to consciously create courageous space. And that's honestly why I wanted to talk to you about this book for this episode as a part of our love series, because you helped shape these stories in a very loving, compassionate way, which is what, frankly, all of my favorite creators do. If I look at what books I love, what film I love, it's somebody who genuinely loves the nuances and richness of a human being. And I felt how consciously that was done in your book, but I also see how consciously you do that in the way you create connection with both your friends, your closest collaborators, and brand new friends like me. I instantly felt like loved and supported and safe and like, I'll tell them anything. So just
Your
huge shout out
secrets
to
are
you.
safe with us.
I believe that.
I feel like, we pretty consciously have said to women, it's a safe space, right? And it's a big ask to say, bare your soul. But the thing is, they all did it. And I think just the act of sharing so vulnerably is such a loving act. It's such a loving
Mm,
act in service of women everywhere. And for Dina and I, we've been going around now for 5 months and, sharing stories and meeting women. And the responses have been uniformly, wow, I see myself here. Like, thank you. And I just feel like thank you goes to the women who, as Dina said, entrusted us to share, because it's hard to open yourself up not knowing where that's going,
yeah.
but they did it, I think, because they love they love this sisterhood, they love community, and they want women to feel supported. And so it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing to be able to help usher that along.
Mhm.
And it was also lovely to see how cathartic it was for the writers to put their story out, to get it out. I know some of them really had to think about what they wanted to say, how they wanted to say it, what they wanted to let go. I mean, there are a lot of, as you've read the book, you see there's some very personal things in the book.
Mhm.
And in the beginning, I used to say, these women wrote in a way in service to other women, but in a way that was cathartic to them. And now being on, a little bit of a book tour and panel discussions, it's also been cathartic for the reader. And so that was another kind of unexpected take to the book. The writers wrote in a way that in service to others and also to themselves. But then when readers come up, we had an instance with Dina Aronson where a woman came up and said, I just lost my mom and I read your essay and it was so meaningful to me. And,
Mhm.
someone else says, I know what it's like to feel invisible, and reading these stories really makes me feel seen. And so it's the balance between the both sides coming together unexpectedly like that has been such a beautiful, loving thing for Dina and I, because we leave these events and we're just so like, we're honestly just blown away by the reactions of so many women, and then the community that we're building. And it is a community of love. We have women that are constantly reaching out and saying, you should know this person, you should know this person has a great story, you guys do a great job, connecting and communicating, maybe you can put them in the right direction. So the writing has led to many, many pieces of the puzzle, including the readers feeling seen. It's been an
Wow.
amazing journey.
I'm really glad that you have gotten into these rooms and had these conversations so that you can have some of that reflected back to you. Because the creative life can be a lonely one. And to be able to see the impact you're having, I think is profound. So I'm really glad you've given yourself that gift, having given all of us the gift of the work. You touch on a lot of really brave topics, and we've talked a little bit about the vulnerability around some of those. And it's everything from relationships and illness and death and pleasure and the physical, the mental, the spiritual, all of the challenges. Have you noticed that there are any particular themes that have been the most still sort of taboo or edgy as you've connected with audiences and heard them reflected back that people are like, I can't believe you talked about that?
That's a great question. Well, since Dina raised death, I will say, I don't know if death is edgy, but
Mm,
I do think death still is sort of shrouded in silence and fear.
Mm.
And it is something we do not talk about in this culture. And my very strong feeling is we have to, because it impacts the way we live. Right. And for me, my mom's passing was very much a catalyst to want to bring these stories together and put them out in the world. Um, and I feel like sitting with the impermanence of life is an incredible motivator, you know.
Mhm.
And so I've always a little bit surprised that there's so much like engagement around death. Dina, don't you have you
Yeah,
noticed that there's been a lot of
absolutely. Especially as of late, Dina. I think in the beginning, the draw was really towards menopause. And I don't know if it was
yeah,
just the timing when the book launched,
Right.
where there was a lot going on in that circle. But
yeah,
really, in the past, I think the past 2 or 3 months, Dina, it's really been more towards acceptance of death and grief and how we get through it and understanding it. And I think it's because so many women in this space, it's an unfortunate time. We're losing people, right? And we're
Yeah.
not really talking about it. We're
Mm.
not putting
yeah.
it out there. I don't see people writing essays like Dina is writing on a, weekly basis. We could read about menopause every day now if we want. So I do agree.
Mhm.
In the beginning, it was more menopause, but now it's really more about what happens. How do you handle this stage in life when you're losing people closest to you?
Love it.
Yeah. And I don't know. Can you think of anything else, Dina, like edgy? I mean, we were just saying every conversation, dry vaginas come up.
Yeah, I
But I don't
thought
know
the
that that's
sex chapter, the pleasure chapter was
Yes,
the one that I was like, oh,
Gabriella. Yeah,
yeah,
Gabriella
wow, they went
Gabrielle
Espinosa.
there.
and Laura
And
And
Laura,
Laura.
both of
Friedman.
them were
Yeah.
incredible
Yeah, two
Um,
fabulous women,
and
wonderful
fabulous
writers.
writers.
And
oh yeah.
very, very forthcoming, right? Because their essays did not hold back. They were
I
very
think it was
true.
Laura that I was like, damn, girl, you are the bravest person I know.
Yeah, you
That
would
was
love
one of the
her.
essays where I feel like both Dina and I read those aloud to our husbands, and like and they loved that. They loved it, obviously.
Oh,
But I think
obviously.
when we read Laura's, I was like, "God, we have a book here. Like,
Yeah.
I want Laura's essay. I want to see that in like a streaming series.
Correct. I want the
I want to
movie.
see her
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
that date
Hmm.
going back with the man. Like,
Uh-huh.
sh- incredible writer, incredible writer.
Yes.
She wrote a
And
whole book, by the way, for your audience to
Okay.
know, called Available. Laura Friedman Williams.
I'm
So,
going to go find it.
excellent. Yeah. And she was one of
Yeah.
the first essays that came in, which
mhm,
was really helpful that it was from her and at that time and on that
yeah.
subject, because it really propelled us to move forward in ways that maybe we wouldn't have if we'd gotten a bit
Mm.
of a tamer essay to begin with, right? We looked at
Yes.
this like, wow, this is going to be a phenomenal book.
Yeah. I love that you say that too, because that's so much of what the book is doing for us. Because if our role models are, I don't know, midlife is you sign up for classes at the town recreation center and do some jazzercise, and that feels like the stretch, that's as far as we're going to stretch, right? It's the whole see her, be her concept here. And so I think through these stories, these women are showing us how to stretch in all sorts of ways and to expand our sense of possibility. You talked a little bit, Dina Aronson, about what the catalyst was for you specifically
Mhm.
in creating this anthology. How about for you, Dina Alvarez? What made you really want to do this now?
Well, when I was microblogging and I was connecting with midlife women, I just was watching them through a very kind of distant lens, but I was still able to see that there was a lot more that I didn't know about them. And I thought that they were interesting women, and I knew they had interesting stories, and I felt that these stories were not being told.
Mhm.
Why? Because no one was asking a midlife woman anything. So to me, I felt like
Well
this
said.
is perfect timing. Midlife women are making huge strides, right? We have people starting new businesses, we have podcasters, we have people going into different spaces in their life. They are not looking at midlife as taking a back seat to anything. As a matter of fact, they are jumping in the front seat and they are really just driving wherever they need to go. And I thought, I want other people, other women to know that midlife is not decline or disappointment or looking at my life is, I'm done. My life is whatever, halfway done. And what can I accomplish now? I wanted these stories to show other women what can be accomplished. And I wanted them to see that through their own vulnerability in writing these essays, they could show other women who are not in these spaces, because Dina and I often talk about, it's a bubble, right? We're not in all the spaces. Some women are not in centralized locations, don't have a great community. And so the book just felt like a good way of expressing what midlife women are living and doing at this time, and putting it out to women that are not in these circles and letting them know what they can accomplish.
I love that. You're both writers. You both have incredible creative resources, and you chose to do this as an anthology. And more than that, you chose to do it together. So, Dina Aronson, talk to us about how and why you made that decision.
I would not have done this book without Dina Alvarez. Like
Oh.
I just I think from the moment we met, and we have a great meet cute
I want to hear the whole
story.
thing, please.
I'm gonna let Dina Alvarez
Okay.
share the meet cute, but I just think there was kind of an immediate kindred spirit feeling. Um, and we after the meet cute, we ran into each other on the street in New York City, which was crazy. And there were just was saying earlier today to somebody, when the universe speaks loudly, you have to listen. But I think we just both were very aligned, and we both had this feeling. First of all, we both love storytelling. We both shared this sense that like we were not being represented out there, women's stories were not being told. I had an idea for one kind of book that was more sort of health and menopause and what to expect when you can no longer expect kind of thing. Dina can tell you she
Yeah.
had a different anthology idea around women, but more mothers and our mothers. And so, as we got to know each other and sort of built our friendship, I think we just felt very drawn to working together. And we were really aligned on what kinds of things we wanted to do. And, there's something really beautiful just in our friendship story, because I think a lot of women get to a certain point and then life starts, they find themselves in all these transitions, jobs are changing, kids are leaving the nest. Maybe friendships they had that were more out of convenience start to, fall away. And it feels sometimes, I think, very hard to think about making new friends as you move into your 40s and 50s. And I will tell you, Dina and I didn't meet until our earlier 50s, and all of the women involved in this book we met post 50. And so I just love that piece of the story because it's really so
Mhm.
emblematic of the larger message of the book, that it is never too late, that, there's no expiration date, there's no script you need to follow. Like we made this all happen post 50. And I just love that piece of it. So
It's so energizing to hear you say this, because so many women are struggling with adult friendship. We featured a story a while back on two women who call themselves LIL BFFs, which was late in life best friends forever. Uh,
that's awesome.
and it was so meaningful because so many people find themselves either they've grown apart energetically, physically from the people they were once with. They found that the people they were spending their time with weren't people they admired or
Yeah.
connected with or were uplifted by.
Yeah.
And so I think it is a huge part of this story. And so seeing friendships that become collaborations and partnerships, like what better love story could there be? And it's every
Mhm.
bit as important to our mental health, our physical health as any other kind of love, except maybe self-love. I'd put that maybe first, but it's
I
also a
think you have
pathway to
to.
self-love in many
I think you
cases.
have to love yourself to give yourself over to this kind of a relationship and
Yeah,
partnership. It has to start from within, because if you're not loving yourself, you're not going to show up.
right.
You're not going to bring your best, most open, vulnerable self, and you need to bring that vulnerable self to any relationship if there's going to be a true connection.
Please tell me the meet cute.
I met Dina on what I call a midlife blind date, and I really recommend it to all midlife women out there. Sometimes you just have to invite someone out to dinner that you don't know in person, that you might have seen online or someone might have told you about, which is what I did. I invited someone out to dinner, and she in turn invited someone else who then invited Dina Aronson. And
Oh.
so on my way to dinner, I'm thinking, what am I doing? What if we have nothing in common? What if we have nothing to talk about? Like, I just started going to this place of worry because I'd never done anything like that before. I almost canceled at the last minute because I just kind of got into my head. It was a long day at work. I was
Mm.
tired. I was in the cab going up the West Side Highway, and I'm thinking, do I need to go to dinner tonight? Like, you kind of start sometimes questioning yourself when you feel
Mm.
tired. And I'm so glad that I didn't cancel, because we would not have a book. We wouldn't have met each other. And we've really become wonderful friends, and we can bounce things off of each other, and we can be completely honest with each other and vulnerable, and it's really been a beautiful thing. So I hope anyone listening to this goes on a midlife friendship blind date. I think it's
Yes.
it's a phenomenal thing to do, and the worst thing that happens is you go out and you have a nice dinner together and you part ways, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty certain that you will find someone you will connect with.
I love it so much, and now I just want us or somebody else to start the dating service for it. Um,
Seriously.
like, let's go.
Business idea, put that in the column to be
Ex
revisited. Okay, I want to just add on because Dina says how I like to say the part where she almost got out of the cab. And the reason I really think that's such an important part of the story is that, and you'll see this theme sort of running through the book too, is that saying yes and coming out
Mm.
of the comfort zone, which we've all done to make this book happen. And and it's the only, in my humble opinion, the only way to true growth
Yeah.
is to come out of that zone and to show up and say yes, even if you're not sure. So that's why I always
Mm.
like bring that little piece out if she's skipped it. Because I
Yes,
just think it's
yes,
really
yes.
important. It's an important piece of the message.
I agree. And so often we miss the big opportunities, the big growth, the big change because of the minor discomfort.
Mm. Yes.
The little short-term awkwardness is always worth enduring. Long-term awkwardness, long-term discomfort, we can have another conversation about that.
Yeah.
There is something, I think, in the way you two are friending here. What do you see as the keys to being great midlife friends and building a friendship and nurturing it?
You want to
I'm
go,
going
Dina?
to I'm going to start by saying that Dina pushes me out of my comfort zone.
Hmm.
And sometimes I don't like it, but it's always led me somewhere really great. And I
Hmm.
think I value many things of her in regards to our friendship. But I think her seeing when I'm struggling and saying, you know what, I know you don't feel great about this, but I'm going to push you a little bit because you need to be
Hmm.
pushed. And you might not like it now, but you'll be okay later. And she'll always say, like, we'll hold each other's hands. And she's right.
Hmm.
And we have, and it's been a wonderful experience being retrospectively being pushed out of my comfort zone,
Yeah.
which I would never have expected to say. A great friend will do that for you. She will say, you're only going to be better if you do this, even though you feel terrible now about it, or you're scared, or you're nervous, or whatever the case may be. So I think that's really important if you find someone who's like that, who can kind of read you and know you're
Hmm.
going to be a better person if you do it. Like, I'll help you. Let's do it together.
Oh,
That's really beautiful.
I
And I'll
love
say that the
that.
key takeaway, I think, in that for us as friends is to listen to the other person and respond to their their vulnerabilities, their fears, and acknowledge them. And then we can say, like, I see your fear, but also I
Mm-hmm.
think we're stronger together. So what if we try?
Yeah.
Right. So it really it doesn't start with let's be brave. It starts with I know this is scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's that we are comfortable being uncomfortable together. We bring our whole and true selves to our friendship, to our creative partnership. As Dina said, we are able to be very honest with each other. There's no big egos here.
Mm.
We just really like each other. And we're really well aligned on the things that are important. It's like the fundamental stuff. I think we share a sensibility about, and and we're able to disagree too and work through that. Like it's just, I feel really blessed and lucky, and I'm glad she didn't get out of the cab. That's all I'll say.
Mhm.
Me too.
It, in midlife, we can certainly point to the things that become less easy, like technology. Um, maybe some physical things. Maybe there's a little like cognitive slowing down, right? So there are
Mhm.
things that become more challenging, but there's also, and I think what's so underrepresented, we hear this in your anthology and we hear this so much in your story, is that we have spent decades even consolidating and compiling resources and knowledge that then we get to put to work for us. And so I imagine you are in this friendship and this partnership leveraging all of your decades of experience of what worked and what didn't. And so it really is just such a ripe and powerful time to do and try new things because you've been building toward them.
Yeah. I so agree with that. And I often say, like, there's really no such thing as a midlife beginner,
Mm.
because you do
I love that
bring,
line.
there isn't. I mean, unless maybe you're trying to learn Chinese, in which case I have no frame of
But
reference
you
at
they
all.
have learned some. I mean, like you learned like how your brain works best for learning,
Right,
right? Like
right. But I
so
wrote something
good.
recently where I talked about like all of those sort of layers of experience, like becoming like this jumping off platform, so that you're never starting from zero or scratch. And so then take two of us together, our platforms are pretty high, right, to
Yeah.
jump off from. So I think the reason I say that, and I think it's an important sort of point to make, is that I think people become very overwhelmed by the idea of starting something new. It
Mhm.
doesn't have to be new, like I'm changing my career or blowing up my life, but like anything, like
Yeah.
learning mahjong, like whatever it is, like things can feel overwhelming when you feel like you have no clue, but you do have a clue.
Yeah.
You have a clue. You understand how to connect dots in a way you never have before. So I just think it's an important point to make.
We're not
Yeah.
giving ourselves credit.
No.
Yeah, and they do say you never lose the ages you've been. So it's
Mm.
easy to build on what you have to keep moving forward, which is something Dina and I have been able to do. But doing it together is actually been even better because we can
Mm.
kind of bounce things off of each other and ideas and really kind of learn that we can move forward, that we don't have to be, we don't have to let fear kind of dictate what we want to do anymore.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fear, it's a perfect transition here. You've both done lots of brave, scary things, and we've talked about some of them already. When I ask you that question individually earlier, you both actually said the same thing, which was that the biggest mental hurdle for you in doing courageous things is that feeling of readiness. And I think that comes up for so many of us. The question of, am I ready? And in another term, do I have enough credibility? Right. And so I think those are in essence two sides of the same coin. And so I'd like to talk to both of you about what you've learned through doing hard things, about that feeling of readiness and credibility that's gotten you over the hump to just go do the thing. And I imagine one of them is looking at each other and saying, are we ready? Fuck it, let's do it anyway. But beyond that, Dina Aronson, you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I'll go back to like the launching of my blog, Patina, which I
Yeah.
did in 2020. And what's interesting is I had talked about launching a blog for probably 2.5+ years. And I like wasn't ready as a practical matter,
Mhm.
but beyond the practical, I was also like, I told myself I was researching, I was gathering information, I was ideating. I was scared.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting that you talk about sort of the credibility. That was part of it for me, was like I have always been very qualified to do what I had done in my career.
Mhm.
I went to law school. I had a law degree and a license from the state that said you are qualified to do this, right? And then when I shifted out of that, I still was qualified, right? I stayed on the periphery. I went to work as a recruiter of lawyers. Then I went to work in law firm management. I was always very comfortably in my sort of qualifications. And so when I started to think about shifting into writing, I was like, I don't have any bylines. Who's going to want to read this? Who's going to take me seriously? I'm not a writer. And I'll never forget the first time I told somebody I was a writer. It was like maybe 6 months or even a year after I launched the blog, and I was this sounds crazy, but I was getting a watch battery for my husband at the Omega store, and I was chit chatting with the guy there, and he's like, "What do you do?" And I go, I'm a writer. And I something shifted in my brain when I said that. Like I owned it for the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah.
But to answer the question of readiness, I allowed all of those things to wash through me. I knew those were limiting thoughts. And at some point, I said, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? And that was kind of like what pushed me over the edge. Like, if not
Mm.
now, when? And
Mhm.
what is the worst thing that I think Dina said it earlier, but on another context? What's the worst thing that can
Right.
happen?
Yeah.
What's the worst thing? So it doesn't
Mhm.
happen. It doesn't work. People tell me the writing is terrible. Whatever it is, like I will learn. If this is not meant, if it's not the right thing, I'll just learn from it. And I
Mhm.
finally just was able to get myself into that mindset. And I really just think it was the if not now, when, and what is the worst thing that can happen. I think those are the two things that kind of pushed me over the edge there.
Such a great answer. And I think for anyone listening who is sitting in the am I ready? Do I have enough credibility soup? Those two questions are extraordinarily powerful for anyone. Identity trumps action. So a person who says, I run, is less likely to run against all obstacles than a person who says, I am a runner.
Mm.
A person who
Interesting.
says, I eat healthy is less likely to eat healthy than a person who says, I am a healthy eater.
Hmm.
And so stepping into that vision of ourselves, it like I think on the outside can sound a little bit like woo woo. How can a word or two make a difference? And yet study after study validates that it's actually tremendously powerful in terms of our resilience and our self-belief.
Yeah.
So Dina Alvarez, same question to you. How did you step into that?
So it's funny, when you first asked about being ready, my mind went to being a new mother. I was so not ready. Are you ever really ready to
No.
have a child or to do anything really? When you really think about it, you always take a leap of faith. And I think one of the things that catches you is the people around you. I had a support system when my son was born who helped me kind of navigate the difficulties of being a new mother. And so, in every space in my life, when I haven't felt ready, I've at least felt that I could pull in the right community to get me to be ready. And that's the only way I can manage, is knowing that I'm going to have the right people around me to help me get to where I want to be. Whatever ready means, whether it's writing a book, whether it's starting a podcast, whether it's getting into a new relationship. And that's where, friendships are so important in all parts of our life, but especially in midlife, because we are getting hit from all sides with so many things, right? Maybe our relationship is changing, we have empty nest, or maybe our jobs are, maybe our careers are changing. So, to answer that question, the only way I can be ready, or when I felt that I'm not ready, I've always had to draw on the people around me, and they've always kind of pulled me through, to be ready. Like I
So
really
good.
value the support system now in ways that I didn't maybe before, because this book has showed me the value of collaboration and
Mm.
friendship, and there's been so much love there that I realize now, looking back, the times that I've thought I'm ready, I'm only ready because I had the right people around me. So I
Mm.
think for me, being ready is a community effort, right? It's not
Yeah.
just me be like, I'm ready, I'm going to start. Like, you don't do anything alone. No man is an island. We need support, and it's okay to admit that. And that's how you get
Mhm.
from point A to point B. And that's something Dina and I have also done together, so that we can get to the places where we want to be, is through being ready, through community, and finding the right people to engage with and work with.
It's such a great example too of what we were talking about before about the accumulated resources of midlife. That you've spent your life building these relationships and creating that sense of survival, frankly.
Mhm.
You know, there was a part you said like I've done hard things before so I can do them again. So we get that evidence and that proof as a resource, but also this I've got my community that I've worked to build. And now instead of trying to float off on an island, I'm going to rally the resources I have. And so I think for anybody listening, maybe this is a reminder to inventory all that you've built and grown throughout the course of your life. So we talked a little bit about though what's hard in midlife. So what are your priority practices in midlife for your body, mind, spirit, whatever? You're like, no matter what, I do not skip this.
I don't skip my coffee in the morning because I know that
The
it's,
count.
and it's not even, I don't even think it's the caffeine. There are just certain rituals, and
Yeah.
my ritual is uh, I wake up and I don't get out of bed right away. I
Mm,
take my thyroid medication. I'm not allowed to have my coffee for some period of time, and I do not scroll on my phone. I wake myself up,
mm.
and I either spend time just quietly breathing, or I put on a meditation. But I need that quiet time. It's only like 20, 25. And the other thing is I need to move my body in some way. And some days that means the gym, some days it's a walk, some days it might just be like stretching and touching my toes.
Dina Alvarez, how about for you?
Well, I have two very polar opposite things that I've come to terms with. One is every day I need time alone. And I mean fully alone. Like, no one in the house. My phone is nowhere near me. I'm not even really reading a book. I just need quiet time. I'm like, I don't know, a toddler. But I just need to be alone. I need an hour of time where I don't have to worry about a single thing. I just really struggle with the rest of the day if I don't have that. And then the polar opposite of that is that I need an hour where I talk to my sister, or I talk to Dina, or I meet a neighbor for coffee, or I run into someone and we have a dialogue, because I always feel energized after I do that.
Same. Call me. We can go for a walk and talk. It's my favorite date. I like a phone call walk. It reminds me of being like 14 and talking to my friends from my cordless giant phone from my
Mm.
bed. It was the best. You've both done some really brave stuff in the last few years. And one of the things that I think is super interesting is that doing brave things is not a one and done. It's building a threshold. Now, probably writing an anthology wouldn't be all that scary. Maybe a little scary still, but less scary, certainly. So, what's the next brave thing on the horizon for you? And this time, let's start with you, Dina Alvarez.
Well, I'm really trying to step into more of a public speaking comfort zone. It's not somewhere that I have felt comfortable, but I really do enjoy asking questions. So I'd like to
Mm,
lean more into, moderating or interviewing people one to one, like, have a coffee together and share women's stories in that way. So, it's something that I feel I need to get a little more courage for, because you're really putting yourself out there. You're in front of a lot of people. It's not been a space that I'm comfortable in, but I'm getting better at. And again, I thank Dina for that, because she's pushed me out of my comfort zone. So I'd like to continue, going forward in the public speaking space, or interviewing other women about their lives and telling their stories.
oh, wonderful. You remind me too of something else I talk about in my book, which is that to do big, brave things in midlife, we need to find allies and amplifiers. And the
Mm-hmm.
allies are the people who say, I believe in you. You can do this. And the amplifiers are the ones who are like, could you do it this big? And it
Yeah.
sounds like you both have really developed your ally and amplifier
Mhm.
sets. Dina, what's next for you?
Yeah, I just want to say that Dina Alvarez does a phenomenal job when she's on stage. So even though she feels like she needs
Ah,
to get more courage, nobody would know that she has that feeling when she's on stage. She's
mm,
very natural. Similarly, I want to keep going down this road of advocacy and putting myself into rooms where maybe 5 years ago I wasn't so sure I belonged. I want to keep showing up and pushing forward. And what I'd really love to do, I have no idea how to do this, but I can see so many of these stories lending themselves to other treatments, and I would love to figure out how to make a modern love style Hulu anthology streaming series. I have again not really a clue where to start, but the more we can push these stories out and show women
mm.
that yeah, there's some shady stuff that happens at midlife, but hey, it's a small price to pay for what is possible and for the life you can live. It scares the hell out of me to think about sitting in a room pitching this to people who are in a whole other universe. Um, but yeah, I would like to figure out how the heck to get that
Oh,
done with Dina Alvarez, of
I was
course,
just
oh,
going to
by
say,
my
we can do
side.
it.
We
yeah.
got this.
I can't wait to see you both do those things. And I can't wait to see what it looks like for you in the learning journey to those things. Each guest nominates another guest. So I'd like to invite each of you to nominate a woman who inspires you, who you think would inspire us. Though, like I said, the whole book is basically like our podcast in a book form.
Susan Canoff, who wrote
Hmm.
an essay called I Wasn't Always a Butterfly, really inspires me for so many reasons, not the least of which is that she rose out of a very difficult young life with a lot of adversity. And she became a social worker and in the court, and she has a very strong love of fashion. She had social work clients coming into her office and she started to dress them because they didn't have money for clothes. So she started to style them with her own things. And she ultimately turned that into a nonprofit that's now serving more than 5,000 women a year in the greater Boston area. It's called Uncommon Threads.
Amazing.
And in the course of this work, and it's incredible to see the work she does, and as she's building this, she is diagnosed with leukemia, with a form of leukemia called CLL. And she does not let this stop her in any way. And I am just very inspired by her drive, her motivation. She is a beautiful connector. She brings women together. She's an uplifter of the highest degree. She
Oh,
champions women. And so for those reasons, Susan Canoff is on my list
oh my
and should be
gosh.
on yours.
I definitely want to talk to her. That is serious uplifter material.
Yes.
Dina Alvarez, who would you like to nominate?
It's so hard to just nominate one, right? Like I'm sitting here
So
and I'm
hard.
thinking, oh,
I
but there's
just,
this woman and this woman and this woman. But I'm going to say Jessica
mm,
Fine. She wrote the book Breathtaking. She is a woman who adopted 3 children from Guatemala. She tells a story of losing her daughter when she was 17 to a rare genetic disease. And her book is amazing. Even though it is about death and grief, there are moments that you actually laugh and smile as she shares the story. She's uplifting because she's a woman that didn't let grief dictate her life. And so she
mm,
continues to write. And for someone who's had so much loss in her life, you would think that she would put herself in places unknown and not want to deal with the world. But she's done the complete opposite. And to me, she is an uplifter because I think that when you can get through grief like that and show people that you can continue to move forward and live a life and not let the memory of this person you lost be gone and instead share it. I think that that's just so beautiful. And
Well, buy the book, share the book with all of the women in your life, share it with younger women so that they move up the ladder without fear and with a strong sense of possibility
mm,
and that they look forward to getting older. So you can find us and importantly, you can learn about all of our contributors as well
mm.
on our website. There's a link where you can click and learn about all of them, and that's just midlifeprivateparts.com. And you can find us individually. I'm on Instagram at Patina, the name of the newsletter, Patina_life. And then on Substack, it's Patina with Dina Aronson. And I'm in LinkedIn too.
Dina, I just want to say Dina has an amazing blog, like lots of great
Oh,
information. She has a midlife cheat sheet on there. Like definitely go check her out. She has an
thank
amazing
you.
blog. And I second everything Dina said. I mean, you could find me at a few good things at Substack, but we'd really love it if you came onto Midlife Private Parts and subscribed to our newsletter, because that is going to start going out monthly, and we're going to have great tidbits of midlife information. And we just want to continue connecting with women, and we'd love for them to sign up and become part of our community and also share their stories with us as well.
I love it. I'm going to go do that right now because I
Yeah.
want all of it. I'm so excited to see what both of you do next. And I'm so grateful for what you've done already. And I'm even more grateful that I got to meet you and that we got to chat with you today.
Thank you.
Well,
Likewise.
likewise. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
My
And
pleasure.
we're so happy that we met you, and we look forward to more
Yeah,
with you
Yes.
and
we'll
to
continue.
uplifting together.
Thanks for watching the Uplifters podcast. If this inspired you, hit subscribe and tap the bell to stay uplifted. Give this video a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a little lift today. Big love.
Painted water sunshine with rosemary and thyme. Dwell in the perplexing, though you find it vexing. Toss a star and hover, be your own best lover. Relish in a new prime, plant a tree in springtime. Dance with idle hindsight, bring the sun to twilight.